Welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S Lifeline. We are here to help. And my counterpart, my man Keith, a.k.a. hashtag Bearded Wonder of the Truth Farms. We are going to be rocking out today with two amazing guests. Today we're sitting down with James VP and Marah Lago, founders of Military CreatorCon. This event used to be a part of a podcast fest every year and will break out on its own. Looking forward to learning more about what they have planned. But before we do that, Keith, how you doing today, brother?
I'm living the dream, brother. I am so excited to be working. I mean, Sean's slacking. I don't know where he's doing something. He's off. He's decided to ditch his own show. But no, man, it's great to be with you in the saddle, and really looking forward to this show.
Man, hey, Sean, I greatly appreciate you for letting me come on to team up with Keith today so we could be rocking out and talking to James VP and Marah Lago. Wait till I hear the intro that they have, and wait till you hear about MilitariCon, that they're actually branching out on their own this year. So I can't wait till we get into the conversation. But first, James VP is a 20-year retired Air Force veteran, combat veteran, has dedicated his post-military career to the power of connection. Since retiring in 2015, he has built and cultivated a vast network rooted in belief in relational networking. The idea that's authentic, people-first connections create the strongest impact. James is a successful podcaster, a driving force in the military veterans community, and an active leader in the Raggar relay running community. Oh, we have a runner here. That's awesome. Marah Lago. Yes, I said it right, y'all. Believe it. Marah Lago is an accomplished entrepreneur, military spouse, and award-winning jewelry designer known for building thriving ventures. She's co-founded and led a global recognized jewelry brand, growing it from ground up and into an 8-figure success in just 11 years. Fully bootstrapped. Today, she channels that same drive into Military CreatorCon, a conference she co-founded to empower military-connected creatives across media, technology, art, and entrepreneurship. Committed to community, opportunity, and authentic connection, Marah uses her grit and intuition to mentor others, helping them overcome challenges and turn ideas into meaningful impact.
Sean hit me with a doozy right out the gate.
Hey.
How you doing, James and Marah?
Doing awesome.
All right, nice to see you guys. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
So tell us a little bit before we kind of get into the whole Military CreatorCon and all that. Tell us a little bit, James, about your transition story. How did that go for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love. I would say it's been an interesting path. It's been a little over 10 years at this point, and I feel like when I hear that question, right, of transitioning out of the military space, I don't say it's an illusion, but I think it's been something that you never really fully transition, right? And especially I did 20 years in the military space, so I think as I look back, right, it's a part of everything we are now going forward. But so when I first got out, I didn't know for sure the path I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. I knew for 20 years after I got out, I didn't want to do communications or IT anymore, which was what I did in the Air Force. So a year before I got out, I met a person called Chris Kremisos, who... Sorry, I'm trying to do my best. We can edit this out in a second, and I'll pick it up from there. But like, it's messing me up to hear myself right now. So...
Yeah, I'm hearing some kind of echo. Of course, it started. It wasn't at all before we hit the record button, but as soon as we hit the record button, an echo occurs.
And it's just delayed enough to mess with me. So I met a guy named Chris Kremisos, who had a business organization called Tampa Bay Business Owners Organization, and I was also lucky. I was in a joint communication unit where we were deployed a lot, and if we weren't deployed, we were trained to deploy all over the United States, all over the state of Florida, all over the world, really. So my last year, I was in a plans role, and so I'd be gone maybe a week at a time. So knowing that I was retiring that year and going to be done, I started kind of plugging in and helping Chris with a business organization. They did events. They did a an event called Business Symposium in the fall, and they did a Christmas in July event, and they did a monthly kind of networking event. So, and that kind of led into a conference that they were starting called PodFest in 2015, within a few months of when my retirement was final. So, I can kind of look back on my transition. I kind of got what I was looking for, but didn't know, right? Like I started to learn networking in the outside of the military. And of course, I look back in the military, and every branch I think is probably this way. But for me, with all the different people that I'd met along my 20 years and deployed all over the world, that's how we got stuff done, right? Like, who do I know at this base that does this? Who do I know here that does that? And so as I started to kind of get mentored and watch Chris on the outside kind of be doing that in the civilian sector, I just watched him really building a community and authentically caring about people and connecting the different people together and things like that. So I think a lot of what I started to watch people like him and learn as I was getting out, I can kind of look back and kind of everything I'm doing now relates back to that. But I think we're gonna get into that more. But also kind of the more I talk about this and transition, I think it's okay because I think you don't really ever truly transition out of the military, if that makes sense, because I think it's always and I don't think it matters how many years, in my opinion, how many years you've done. So
Yeah, no, I think it's spot on, and it operating so much in the transition space like I do, it almost starts to sound like a broken record. I feel like a broken record. They always talk about networking, network connections, but it's so true, and it's I have to remind myself even though I start to feel like a broken record over the years, it's we have a fresh new audience every year of 220,000 or whatever the statistics say. Folks getting out of the military every year that need to hear that message. So
and I think
spot on.
I think it was good too. Like for me, it, I remember transition, not the TAPS classes, not that they were the best, but it resonated with me, even though I didn't know what that looked like. The fact that, like, you're at a stage of your life or your time period where you can really literally do anything you want and start over, right? And I think that's what I was doing. I didn't probably have the confidence to tell other people that, hey, I'm getting out of the military, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm kind of going towards some sort of thing that I don't know what it's going to be. And everything that we're going to talk about later related to the conference and helping conferences and doing conferences and even running, for that matter, and doing the running podcast that I'm doing. I mean, if you had told me 5 years before I got out of the military that I was going to 10 years from then be doing things like that, it would be like, no, probably not. Like, that wasn't in the cards necessarily, but it was kind of good and bad. Like at that time, you're like, wow, like I could literally do anything, but where do I start? Right? I want to do business, but I don't want to do some of these businesses that I could have done. I was really kind of still searching for that meaning and stuff like that, Keith.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I'll just say, when I retired from the Army, I swore I would never do another push-up, never do another sit-up, and never run more than a quarter of a mile ever again in my life. And I've held true to that to this day. I still exercise. I just don't do any of those three things. All right, Marah. So tell us a little about how you got into the transition space. Obviously, you had a relationship with being a military spouse, but how did that develop into where you're at today?
Well, the first day, the first hour I met my husband, I'd said that I really wanted to help military spouses. That was kind of like an ideal that I had, because I kind of felt like I'd had this amazing career and I wanted to help other women to find their transitions, because I felt like little I knew about the military space, that transitions and PCSing and also getting out might be a challenge, if you're sort of, I said, in the shadow of your spouse who was doing all these things, and the things I've learned are huge about that space. But I really kind of wanted to help there. And then, to be fair, I really just got immersed, like fire hosed, into the military community, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved every veteran I met. I loved every spook I met. I just had this incredible time, and I was welcomed. And that never had happened to me before, where people were like, just like, come as you are, be you. Like, let's just get to know one another and talk so genuinely about transition and where they were at, and be, that was different for me. And so, frankly, I just fell in love with the community, and I was like, I need to do something with my husband that reflects this love and connection that only the military space has.
That's awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love what both of you are doing in the community. So Kings, what do you think? Anything speaking to you before we let them talk about Military CreatorCon?
Yeah, so James VP, so you said that you're doing a running podcast as well. What's more about that? 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
pretty
So,
interesting concept.
so it's funny. If I look back right now, I talk about, and I think you were now. I heard Keith was in the Army and you were in the Air Force, right? The Air Force, I went in 1995 until 2015, and growing up, I thought running was retarded. I'm going to be honest. I was like, why are people out? Like, I remember cross country and track people growing up, and they'd have like on their jackets, right? Like clinking and clanking. They had their whole entire right and left sides, all these medals and stuff. And I'm like, clearly, because I was used to main sports, right? Like in basketball, you're lucky if you ever get anything, right? You hopefully win a championship, like maybe one time, once or twice, if you're lucky. And anyway, so I thought I was viewed, in basketball practice, right? If you do something wrong, you're running. You know what I mean? Running was a punishment, not something you wanted to do. And I remember, okay, I'm going to go in the Air Force. Let me see if I can run a mile or two, right? Kind of a mindset. And then you get in basic training at that point, and the Air Force had a bike test, and you run a little bit in basic training, but not that much. Then you get to your first duty station, and it's like, okay, do whatever you want for PT back then, right? It's like, cool, I'll go play basketball. Right. I was like, if I'm going to run up and down, if I'm going to run back then, I would say, if I'm going to run at all, I want to run up and down a basketball court to where my mind's not thinking about running up and down. It's thinking about, the basketball itself. So then fast forward, right, when the Air Force made us start to run, I figured out I was a good runner, and I ended up embracing it, but kind of slowly, but figured out I was a good runner at first. Then I get to my last unit that I retired from, Joint Communications Support Element in Tampa, Florida. And we were running 5 days a week as a unit, right? Like most of everything we did every day was, go in formation and then go run. So I was running on the base, and then I was running, if I wasn't on base, I was running at home. And I just kind of started at 6 miles, 7 miles. I got up to 10 miles a day, 6 days a week by the time I was done with those 5 years. So, and then of course, in the Army, you get notoriety so quickly. Because in our unit, we had 60-something% of our unit was Army and Air Force. So the Army people like quickly are like, wow, like look at this VP this dude is like a badass runner. So
he can run, he can lead.
Yeah, it's like he can. So I end up being in the top, 2, 3, 4, 5 of people of the whole entire element, right? Whatever 100 people we had, right? So they were doing this race called Ragnar Relay. So Ragnar basically is a road and trail team race. It's like a Friday, Saturday. So in 2010, they were putting in a team, and of course, how the military units work. It's like, VP's our best runner. Like, you're going to run with us, right? And I'm like, let me get this straight. I'm going to run with your asses on a Friday, Saturday, and pay money to do that. Why would I do that? So I kind of was hoping I wouldn't do that, but long story short, that's actually the first time I ran with our unit. We were a great team. We were, we killed it, kind of ran from Port St. Richard to Daytona Beach. And then a couple years later, we ran, or like a year and a half later, we ran the Ragnar. That year was at in the Keys, started in Miami, ended in the Keys. So first couple races I ran with our unit. And then as I got out, I was like, let me start to do this race kind of for fun, and was getting into podcasting. Let me start a podcast. So I do a podcast related to the race called the Ragnar Life Podcast.
Nice,
Oh,
nice.
that's awesome.
That's awesome stuff. So y'all decided to officially cut the umbilical cord from PodFest, and now we're going to venture out into Military CreatorCon. Tell us about how that happened. How did this all come to be?
Yeah, so I kind of talked a little bit about when my transition, which has been kind of a long way from, and not a straight line necessarily, right? But when I started helping with PodFest, just how I operate and how I was trained anyway, even from a growing up standpoint, is like I always treated PodFest as my own, meaning I knew it wasn't mine, right? Like I knew, but I did this stuff for Chris as though I was Chris, or how I would want it be done if it was me. And also, I look back, even the Tampa Bay business owners events that I was helping him with, and PodFest, and then as I started getting opportunities to work with other conferences that I work with now, I was starting to learn, how to set them up and do these different things. And in 2019, so I kind of talk about PodFest. For those that don't know what PodFest is, it's pretty much at this point the biggest podcast conference in the world. But it has like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday format, always has. And on that Thursday, they kind of always treated it as, they still had content, right? But it was kind of almost like a warm up day to some degree, or like they had the basic 101 stuff that day. They had stuff, but so in 2019, going into 2020, Chris wanted to do these microcons to use space that they had to, there was kind of these niches, and military being one of them. Chris has always been very supportive of the military. He came to my retirement. I kind of, he was always interested in what the military was doing, and giving to the military. So he's like, I'll work with you guys to figure out a space for you and what that looks like. So in late 2019, so like October timeframe, myself and a few others of us, Russ Barnes, that's a part of us, we all started planning. And if you remember, obviously now it's hindsight, but in 2020, COVID, it was starting. So the PodFest that year was March. So we did the first Military CreatorCon in person. It had multiple speakers. We had a keynote. We had T-shirts and on all these things, right, with the logo. We did, but even when I was going to help Chris at PodFest and the next day be Military CreatorCon, the microcon, all of a sudden, we were hearing things in the world, right, about COVID. And then I said the other day to someone, like, I remember Chris doesn't really ever get frazzled, but we were at a restaurant eating before we went to the hotel, and he was kind of on the phone, and he's like, man, I just hope we can get to the other side of this event, because they were like, okay, we need hand sanitizer, we need stuff on a badge with people, hugging people or not hugging, or like distance. Like, it was really early on. There was nobody knowing what to do at that point, right? So we did Military CreatorCon on Thursday. PodFest went on, and then the next week, so then it ended on Sunday, right? And then Tuesday, Wednesday of the next week, everything shut down at that point. So that's how quick, how much close to not having that first in-person event was for us, or even for PodFest that year. So then we did Military CreatorCon as Chris. For PodFest, we did virtual events during COVID. We did Military CreatorCon as a sub thing of that, right? They still had the microcon concept during the virtual conferences, and then we slowly brought it back, but we had talked to Chris, knowing all along we were going to do it as a multiple day conference on its own at some point. We just wanted to kind of parallel with, use the communities that we had with PodFest. Plus, for me, it's always been kind of my home conference, if you will, and everything I'm doing, that we talked about at the beginning with transition. I can really kind of always go back and point back to that. So this is where we're at kind of right now, is at that point.
Oh, sorry, Mark,
Yeah,
you're on mute. Start over.
Oh, okay.
No, it
Sorry
was on
about that.
our end.
Am I good
the
now?
echo thing we were having. Yeah, the echo thing we've been kind of. I've been having to switch back the mutes back and forth.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm good. So I met James in 2021, and what was kind of impactful about that, or what kind of shifted about that, is my background as an award-winning jewelry designer. I talked to James. I'm like, I love what we're doing. I love the Military CreatorCon concept, but we're talking about new media and podcasters and authors, and that's great. But what about more traditional creatives? Like, that's kind of where I come from, and my family is, entertainment industry, and back in the where I grew up. I grew up in Beverly Hills area. And so I'm like, can we, expand that concept? He's like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So creators kind of embodies all creatives. So it's podcasters, YouTubers, TikTokers, authors, right? But it's also filmmakers, actors, comedians, musicians, jewelry designers, woodworkers, leather workers. Like the list kind of goes on, and all of that, in entrepreneurship. So that's kind of how that nugget got expanded, was kind of because James was like, yeah, let's bring it all in. Let's talk to all creators.
That's what you got, King.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and it's interesting to kind of look back, because I would say I felt I was not a creative person, which is interesting, right? So this has been cool to really put this conference together and build upon what we had started, and we really also, about a year and a half, knowing our path and where we were going, purposefully I can say last year, like a year ago, when we had our last one day with PodFest, we expanded our content to really transition into knowing we're doing a Military CreatorCon with the content that we're putting together for this year. So we started really kind of talking about some things that would be more creator, the creative process and the creative mindset and things like that. And what's interesting as well, right, is I now look back, it's like, we're all creative, but we really want to have a home, right, for the military creative person, and collectively all of us to be able to do more creative things together by getting a bunch of creative people together. And I know I talked about the Air Force in a good way too, is very much about how can we do things better, and encouraging that. So I think generally the military space, if you think about the internet, you think about GPS, so you think about a lot of the things that we use in society, right? It was first tested out and brought to be in the military space. So we want hopefully this to be the on-ramp or off-ramp or to different things, right, from what the people do in the military to what they maybe do on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, the creativity of the military community to me is astronomical, because I think about all the people I've met and the things that they've done and the problem solving they've done, and as a pure civilian, somebody who grew up in Beverly Hills, was not around any bases, didn't date military guys, like it just wasn't our thing, right? I didn't know shit about the military community, to be honest with you. And so when I started realizing this, I'm like, this is one of the most incredibly creative environments. And it's almost like it's cultivated to be that way. They want you to think creatively. They want you to figure shit out. They want you, and you really have to problem solve. You MacGyver crap all the time. So I just feel like it's a natural fit. And we meet a lot of people along the way too that are like very involved in like PTSD and helping people in terms of that part of the transition, that really involve and utilize creative processes to help people to kind of work through some of the things that they've experienced. And I think that that's really powerful, talking about and storytelling your life, your journey, where you've been, where you're going. That kind of thing is very, very powerful. And using artwork, poetry, narration, whatever it is that they do, I think it's however it's done is very important to us.
And I feel good, we're talking about transition, and the show is really about transition out of the military. And what I really like is, I feel like we're creating something to where when you do transition, at least for me, people weren't talking about like, hey, if you want to be this kind of creator, here's what you do, right? Like entrepreneurship was general enough too. Like you had sort of a path to school or to entrepreneurship, but nobody talked about like, hey, if you want to be a podcaster, or if you want to be this kind of creator, or if you want to create this thing that's not in existence, that's not something that's talked about in transition. So we really, want to build this as a home for the people that are looking for that, and kind of fill that void.
And you talk about filling voids, right? So VP, one of my questions, like, Will it be like more of a workshop? Because just like you said, it's like people coming out, and Marah, you said that this military community, we are a bunch of, hey, if it's messed up, figure it out. You know, that's the key saying, figure it out. And definitely as being a creator, you know, figuring out is like, what will get people to my content? How do I even make content? Like what avenue should I use? Should I be a TikToker? Should I be an Instagrammer? Should I be this and that? Like, should I be long form, short form? Should I do commercials? Like, how do you, I guess, hopefully this right here, when y'all branching out, it will start like people to actually think like, oh wow, I didn't know it's different avenues. Cause I just thought it was like, oh, I'm a visual creator. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm a content creator. Okay, what type of content? What type of content are you doing? Audio? Are you doing visual? So for people to like sit back and think, like right now, I'm just thinking like, holy crap, I didn't realize it was so many different doors you could go into.
And I love that.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I love that question. But go ahead, Marah.
Oh no, go ahead, babe.
Yeah, so I love that question because I think that's what we want to create and that we are creating is for people to be like, oh wow, like I don't say more questions because we want them to get the answers, but collectively as a group of people, we, you know, it sounds cliche-ish almost, but, and I think maybe Eve said it earlier, get creative people together to do more creative things. So I think, you know, like anything, right? If you get in a room, even if you were in the military and you get a group of people together, it's like, okay, here's what we need to do. What are some ways we could do this? We could do this, we could do that. You brainstorm, right? So I think with this, we want a safe place, a home, a community that's throughout the year, but also gets to meet at certain times to where they're like, hey, you know, how's that working for you? Oh, wow, I never thought about that. You know, if there's somebody in the food space doing something and you're in the, you know, comedy, where's the crossover? What's similar? What's different? Like what's working in this? What's not working in that? You know, what's, you know, a podcaster, I'm doing podcasting and, you know, this kind of video is working for me. This kind of, you know, questions are working for me. Like, I think the sky is the limit on that. And you also kind of talked about workshops. We'll have workshops, we'll have different things, you know, to where I think that's the good problem to have as a conference is how do you get as much bang for your buck, if you will? Like, how do you do sessions and topics that are throughout the whole entire creator space, not just one group to where like, well, that you know, I'll kind of not pay attention to this because this isn't for me. So I love that question overall because even you just hearing how we're talking about it, you know, you all of a sudden thought of more things. And so I think the team of people that are doing this, that are working really hard with us, you know, we're all on the same page when it comes to the things you asked.
Yeah, that's absolutely great stuff. Unfortunately, I got to jump in and say we're pretty much at time. Like it flew by. There are so many more things I want to discuss. So we need to get Sean to schedule you all back on here for another go around.
Would love that. Thank you.
We'd love that.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up though, two more questions. One, so for our listeners, like give us the when, where, what, why, how for CreatorCon. Where's the first one? Where's it going to be? And all that kind of good stuff, how they can get involved. And then two, how can folks reach out and get in touch with you all?
So Military CreatorCon is going to be in Arlington, Texas in April. It's April 16th through the 18th, 2026, and about the same time, 2027. If they want to contact us, the easiest way to do that is to utilize our names, Marah or James, at militarycreatorcon.com, and our website is militarycreatorcon.com.
And we're on.
We try to make it easy.
Yep, Military CreatorCon's on all the socials, and also, I'll say I'm very accessible. People text me, people, you know, my number's kind of out there, so I've got the same number I've always had. People text me, people hit me up on Instagram, people hit me up on Facebook. The cool thing is, and I'm a communicator by trade. I mean, like, if you want to get a hold of either one of us, it's not hard to reach out. And you know, even though we have a lot of messages, we're trying to stay up with as much as we can, so I get back to people pretty quickly.
I don't know how y'all do that. Like I got one social, I got LinkedIn. I had to block all the others out because I can't keep track. I can't juggle all those stuff. I can barely keep up with what I do.
It's totally a challenge. That's
I can imagine.
Come to Military CreatorCon for tricks and tips.
Yeah, tricks and tips.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Thank you guys so much for joining the show. It was absolutely amazing learning about the upcoming conference, and I'm excited for it. And I think it's going to be an amazing event. And on behalf of the entire VET S.O.S family, we want to thank everyone for spending their time with us today. It's always great having you along for the ride. Don't forget to check out all of our other episodes, to include Kingsley's The Scoop, and keep coming back for more stories, insight, and support from the VET S.O.S crew. If you've enjoyed this episode, give us a follow, share the show, and tell a friend or two. Toss your battle buddies, fire team, shipmates, and wingmen that flotation device they need in transition, so no one drowns in the sea of transition. And as always, remember, grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.
Thank you, Kings. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Kings.
Peace.
Thanks, Keith.